what's been going on in Dutch courts as well. NOS, the Dutch public broadcaster, has reported that there has been a slap on the wrist for a judge who attempted unduly to influence the trial on the MH17 alleged attackers, the Russians from the Donetsk area. Of course, Patrick Henningsen reported this trial and came over to The Hague for us as well, or 21st Century Wire, so the viewers will know about that. But bring on the detail on screen now. We see that the only thing that the Dutch equivalent of the BBC is prepared to admit is that Financieel Dagblad, a rough equivalent of the Financial Times, got a scoop on this, that this advisor at the Supreme Court, Hoge Raad, which isn't a Supreme Court, read that article I just put on screen by the Dutch analyst to see why it isn't. This analyst's brother had written a book basically accusing the mainstream case of being nonsense in this shooting down of an airliner over Ukraine 8-9 years ago now. And it was acknowledged that this judge had freedom of expression. There's your fundamental rights of the Constitution again. But she should have realized what effect it had given her personality and her standing in life. So there's the other hand withdrawing what was given. 9-4-News is a freer Dutch outlet and actually gives us the name of the judge in question, Charlotte von Reinberg. She's only been given a slap on the wrist because she basically admitted it was a mea culpa. That she went through the show of that in order to avoid consequences. But judges can't really be punished that severely. And we find that the title of the book, written under a pseudonym by the judge's brother, is given there, and you'll find the details there. It has been given a new lease of life by opposition parties like the Forum for Democracy, precisely because of this publicity. Just at the end of this segment, to tell viewers who don't already know that in a couple of months in November, we will have a general election for the lower house of parliament, the Dutch House of Representatives. The Kiesraad, the Electoral Commission, has announced this, and the big uncertainty right now is whether the one or two parties, including the new BBB party, which champion farmers' rights, are going to insist on a good deal for farmers who are being expropriated right now. The first expropriation orders have already come in this summer, or whether they may be induced to compromise by the inevitable trading that goes on between these parties and the smaller ones that they need for a majority in Parliament.
Alex, thank you very much for that comprehensive run through. What did I pick up from it? Well, if you're a parent, the state in Holland is going to tell you what the education is going to be for your child. And if you've got religious views, it's going to walk over those. It's also going to tell judges what to say in court, or is that a bit strong?
No, that is not too strong, Brian. The Netherlands has this unique arrangement that actually gives people a huge amount of freedom of speech. If you compare it with even the UK, certainly the continent of Europe, it has, precisely because it took inspiration from the best of British history, got a phenomenal amount of freedom of speech. But if you compare it with the best British tradition, which is in the USA, you find where it falls down, which is that the state is telling its officers in all three branches of government, you are upstanding fellows, you would never do anything naughty, there's no human depravity, we're children of the French Enlightenment, liberté, égalité, fraternité. And these terms translate straight into the advice which these NGOs are now pushing on the organs of government.
Okay, thank you for that, Alex. Well, for our audience, if you like what we're doing, we're going to say please join the UK column and subscribe. And of course, you can then join in the community and find out what other like-minded people are talking and thinking about. You can also help us by visiting the UK column shop and making a purchase. And we'd also like to say to our wider audience in UK and worldwide, we're putting out information which we'd like people to share to get the word out as far and wide as possible. Now, a big thank you, because the last UK column news, I was talking about Oxford City Council and their promotion of the Tart Drag Queen Acts, and I suggested that people could be asking for information around a risk assessment as much as some other things. And I was delighted to get an email in from Caroline, who said that she'd actually done that. She contacted Oxford regarding a risk assessment around that drag queen training, and she'd received the normal holding reply. So she's now got to wait 20 working days to get a response. But of course, as I said to her in my reply email, Oxford City Council is now having to respond to you instead of the other way round.
Yes, it's actually, people really underestimate the power of doing this, asking these questions. It has a tremendous impact on the officials, because they have all of a sudden got to defend their position, they're on the defensive, and they're working for us once again. It makes a big difference.
Okay, Alex, you've got some mentions of new UK column articles.
There has, as always, been a glut of excellent new articles. Would that more of our viewers read the website and shared these articles on ukcolumn.org. This one is a very interesting one by Simon Elmer, one of our most thoughtful writers in a very thoughtful bunch of writers. Type it again and you'll see what the juice of this one is about. It is about Alice Oswald, who is South Devon's own celebrated poet, local to UK Column. And in a cultured and reasoned piece, Simon Elmer is saying, what is the purpose of your poetry, Alice Oswald? Is it to celebrate the beauties of the South Devon coastline in rarefied metaphor, or is it to reflect the horrors that we're living through? Are you going for truth, or are you going for awards, gongs? So that's a very interesting one. We also have a piece up on the Sound of Freedom film, which has come out. I know that there's a controversy among our audience as to whether we should mention this film because of the allegiances of the makers and backers of it. Ian Davis goes actually head on into that argument and says it doesn't matter whether the film itself is good, bad, or indifferent. The problem of child trafficking is real and huge and unspeakable and needs to become discussed. So it's a shame that people are banging their heads against this brick wall, and I think that they should read the piece more carefully. There's also the first of a new series, well, not a series, but a general effort we're going to have on the Coronation and the Constitution. It's a distinctive of UK Column's work. I understand there's some new viewers today who will be watching UK Column news for the first time out of disenchantment with GB News. And I would suggest to them that one of the reasons we are different from them is we have a constitutional reporting area. So that's something that GB News doesn't have. To what extent is our authority legitimate? We also have a piece up in our Mind section by a Belgian, Philippe de Munstereu, on whether Marx was a truly great thinker. Spoiler, he thinks he was a dunce, as the image suggests. And from Australia, Dr. Petra Buskins has put up a piece on Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s bid for the presidency, which will interest many. Also meant to mention in passing, it's not just Britain that has an enabling regulator in medicines in the form of the MHRA. If you bring that on screen and bring up the bottom line, you will see that the Daily Skeptic is reporting that even Karl Lauterbach, the health minister in Germany, has admitted that without the Paul-Ehrlich Institute, the rough equivalent of the MHRA, vaccines would have been authorized much later. He didn't call them an enabler, but it's pretty clear what's going on there. This brings us to Kosovo for our next segment.